morning, good afternoon, everybody. And it's a pleasure to connect with you again during this artificial intelligence podcast. Um, Myself is Alex Kuza. I record this podcast and always have very interesting guests that have unique experience that I would love to share also with you. So today, it's an amazing guest that is actually very well known in Dallas, Texas area, in the Dallas Metroplex for being a CEO and executive, the senior executive director in a very prominent organization. But I'll let this person to introduce either also that organization, but also himself. And before I just ask Paul for introducing himself, I would love to thank you for being here with us. And always you can check the podcast and the previous episodes on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other platforms. We always talking about artificial intelligence, how we can transform businesses, and there is always a practical approach. So we avoid talking about future theories too much, but we also really want to focus on down-to-earth examples so everybody who is listening can either get inspired or take down-to-the-earth real tactics that can be useful in your artificial intelligence project. So today I have a wonderful guest with me. It wasn't easy to schedule that because he's very busy, so I'm super grateful for having Paul with us. And I want to say good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Art. How are you this morning?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Things are doing quite well for our organization and looking forward to finishing out the year strong.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul, for being with us. First of all, I would love to ask you for introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you and your experience, and also how actually is doing the organization that you're a leader.
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for having me on the podcast. I look forward to the discussion today. My name is Paul Bendel. I'm the executive director of Tech Titans Texas, which is a 501c6 nonprofit membership-based organization that promotes the technology industry here in North Texas. We've been around for 30 years, have been part of a Chamber of Commerce in Richardson, but we have since separated from them and as I mentioned a minute ago, we are an independent organization. So there's some opportunity for future growth for the organization and expanding our boundaries a little bit. We were started in 1994 by the site managers for some of the top telecom companies in the region at the time, Fujitsu, Collins Radio, which is now Rockwell Collins, Nortel, and MCI. And only Rockwell Collins and Fujitsu are still with us, of course. And the idea was to bring companies together at a high level to be able to exchange ideas, talk about the industry, look at ways that we can promote it. Invested well past telecom. We pretty much represent just about every industry segment in the tech industry that there is, from our membership as well as the programs that we produce. For me personally, I've been executive director now for 2 years. Coming out of the Chamber of Commerce industry, I've got a background, a 40-year history of working with chambers of commerce, from small chambers of commerce to large ones like Richardson, in a variety of roles, from economic development, convention and visitors bureau development, general management, and events. Prior to that, I spent about 5 years or so as a reporter and play-by-play sportscaster for some small East Texas radio stations. That really set me on a great course to move into this kind of business. And so that's a little bit about me and my background. From the organizational piece, Tech Titans has about 4 major initiatives. One is, of course, programming and networking, where we bring companies together to hopefully build a business relationship. It starts out socially, and eventually, at some point, maybe there's an opportunity for the two companies to connect. We do that through our Tech Industry Luncheon, which is our flagship program that's been taking place since 1997. It's now going to be an every other month event in 2025 as we rebuild from the pandemic. And we've got some great programs. The concept behind it is to take a 30,000 foot business level approach to how technology is affecting business. Our programs, for example, this year have covered AI. We've also covered an economic forecast. We've had a report on progress and the use of technology at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Programs coming up will include the return to work philosophy and how that strategy has changed due to technology, and a health tech program coming up in later this year. So that's our main program. We also have two very active forums that take deep dive technology focused programs to discuss what the latest trends are. Cybersecurity is one of them. Artificial intelligence is the other. The other three or four activities, we have a very strong innovation team that works with startups and VCs. We're having an event in October that will bring those two groups together at an innovation expo with a speaker and some panel discussions. It'll be a half-day event that will really, I think, bring those companies together, and it will give the startups a chance to meet with VCs. Our STEM program is probably one of the most well-known and probably one of the highest sought-after programs that we have. We actually take people from the industry out to area schools. We're working now with 4 school districts, and we base programs and curriculum on what those schools need. We do some job shadowing, we've done mentoring, we've done women in technology programs, and these are all for middle school and high school students. We've also done specific programs on things like the connected car, robotics, and so forth. This is not a show and tell program, it's actually a curriculum built around what those teachers need. So I think those things keep our members very active and engaged. We've got around 200 corporate members right now, and I think we're going to be in really good shape going into 2025 as we expand programs and opportunities around the region.
Paul, thank you so much for this. I didn't want to interrupt you, so make sure that the audience can really get the comprehensive view on Tech Titans. But let me cut it a little bit into pieces and maybe deep dive a little bit, because I need to also share the fact that I am a member of Tech Titans, and the first time I've heard about Tech Titans was 2012 when I came to Dallas Metroplex from Europe, and just like we're visiting around and see the ecosystem and how it works and what was going on. And Tech Titans is here for many, many years. So first message I want to send to you, everybody who is listening to Paul, is that this is the organization that is really rooted here. It's non-profit, and it's focused on, as Paul mentioned, for getting everybody together. But Paul, I got a question to you. Since you had such a long perspective, Tech Titans is such a well-prominent and experienced organization as a whole, as a group of people. There are so many different initiatives going on, from academic to business. How do you see the current landscape of innovation in Dallas Metroplex? Obviously, I would love to ask you. I'll also ask you about the AI ecosystem, but not only. From your perspective, from this many years of Tech Titans existence, Chamber of Commerce in Richardson, can you give us a little bit of the snapshot, how it's evolving? And the reason I'm asking this question is because we have an audience from a really global perspectives. We have people here from Dallas listening to us, but also United States, but Europe as well, since I'm European. And a part of the audience is also there. So how you can just actually tell us, maybe teach us a little bit about how the ecosystem of innovation evolved over these many years? And if you can maybe put a little bit of remarks and focus on AI exclusively, that would be great.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think you have to go back to the size and scope of the technology industry in North Texas. Uh, Geographically, we're much bigger than, say, Boston, much bigger than even Austin, Texas, and some of the other areas of the country that have very strong technology councils and a very strong technology industry. So that's the first thing. When you're looking at the four basic counties that make up the heart of the Dallas-Fort Worth or North Texas region, there's a lot of technology taking place, number one. Number two, I think the depth of the industry, it covers just about everything. From telecom is still here. I know a lot of people think telecom is a bit archaic, but it's not, because it provides the basic systems that we run all of our operations on, right? So you got telecom, we've got, I think we are still the third largest region in the country for the number of data centers that we have, and that's growing because of the use of AI. And that's going to be some of the issues that will have to be addressed in the future. But on the positive side, we've got a number of very strong data centers that can provide the services for the companies. And then you move into things like RFID, IoT, analytics, and so forth. The key, I think, at least in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for innovation, it really comes out of the universities. We've got 5 universities in the region, all very strong in engineering, computer science, and innovation. So you've got the University of Texas at Dallas, which is actually in Richardson, which is celebrating, I think it's 52nd anniversary this year. They were founded in 1969, so that'd make it actually 54. And they have focused on computer science and electrical engineering. SMU is another growing engineering program that's been growing leaps and bounds over the last 20 years, as has University of Texas at Arlington and the University of North Texas, and even Texas Christian, or TCU, over in Fort Worth, which isn't necessarily known as a powerhouse engineering program. They have a very solid engineering academic program at TCU. So a lot of the innovation that we're seeing take place comes out of the universities. And a prime example, I think, is the University of Texas at Dallas. We recently had our annual awards gala where we presented awards for excellence and achievement in technology. And the University of Texas at Dallas actually, actually won that award for some of the work they're doing in healthcare. There was a professor that has developed some patents, things of that nature. So I think we're seeing innovation come out of the universities. It's stretching into the industry through programs like the Richardson IQ, which is kind of an innovation quarter, which is what that stands for, where startup companies are there. The University of Texas at Dallas is there. It's a big program. So I think the innovation starts with the universities and expands out into the industries.
Thank you. This is very interesting. Especially, I actually expected that you are going to say a lot about the university and business collaboration here in the region, especially Richardson, where University of Texas at Dallas has its campus. Do you see Texas as a tech hub in the United States? I know that Texas is a huge state, and everybody knows that is like really bigger than some of the countries in Europe. But do you think that Dallas Metroplex, but also a Texas or maybe North Texas became or is becoming a tech hub for companies, for innovation, for inventions? We know we have a Texas Instruments here, which is the legend from the innovation perspective, but do you see Texas emerging as a tech hub leader, or maybe it's already a tech hub here in the United States? And obviously, everybody's talking about California, Silicon Valley, And I bet it's for big brands like Apple and others, it's a fair deal. But do you see Texas like more like trying to get its space in this innovation ranking, let's say, or it's already there?
Well, I think it's already there to begin with. Uh, for years, uh, Austin has been known as a tech hub, going back to the late 80s, early 90s, with IC2 and some of the other programs that they have down there, the University of Texas, main campus there, and so forth. And so it has grown, but I also think Dallas Fort Worth has made its mark as a tech hub. I mentioned a moment ago how we were geographically larger, but I also think we've got more companies, more density of technology companies. The problem, or the challenge, I guess is a better way to put it, would be that Dallas Fort Worth needs to continue to promote itself, which is part of what we're trying to do, because most people, when you think of Texas and technology, everybody thinks Austin. And yet we're a little bit larger. We have a little bit more diversity in terms of the types of companies that we have, including large companies. Like AT&T is here, Verizon is here, T-Mobile has quite a big operation here. Some of the other companies, Amazon's big here. I think the state of Texas itself, when you get outside of the Austin and or Dallas Fort Worth area, has a lot of room to grow. We're still primarily, when you get into rural Texas, we're still primarily agriculture, oil, gas, exploration, and those industries are very strong in both Austin and Dallas, but they're more prominent when you look at big ranges in West Texas and things of that nature. So I think we've got some work to do to tie the state together as a technology entity, if you want to call it, not an organization per se, but a group, a collaborative group that can promote Texas as a whole, as a tech center. To me, would be where we would need to go with that.
Okay. Do you see, Paul, like AI being more and more important, not only for Tech Titans members, which are very prominent companies like State Farm and others, but do you see that topic to become more and more vivid when we have launches and other meetings? Obviously, as you said, Tech Titans has an AI forum that is exclusively talking about artificial intelligence. There is an incoming event October 17th about artificial intelligence case studies and implementations, especially predictive analytics. But you have a whole bigger perspective on what's going on in Texas. So how much AI is taking over that pie? What would be your comment about this?
Well, I did some research this week on that issue for a couple of reasons. Not only to prepare a little bit for this, but also take a look at what we need to do to get ready for the Texas legislative session that begins in January, because AI is going to be a very big player in that session. And you look at AI in Texas, and it's here, whether people really want to accept it or not. According to the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank, nearly 40% of Texas companies already use AI, with another 17% planning to use it in the coming year. So it's already here in our area, in the state. If you take a little bit deeper look, according to some recent reports by Microsoft and LinkedIn, 75% of the global knowledge workers already use AI in the world today. And 46% of those users started using it less than 6 months ago. So you had the early adopters that got into the program, much like go back to cloud computing in the 10 years ago when it was becoming kind of an early adopter thing. People weren't really sure they wanted their data, in the cloud, and now it's becoming commonplace. So I think we're seeing that, and we're seeing it in the schools as well. 24% of children are using AI tools to do their homework, and there's some issues with that and so forth. But I think it's an indicator that AI is here now. Having said that, there are some things we need to be prepared for. And I think this is where the legislature is going to come in. For those that may not know, the Texas legislature meets every other year in an odd number of years. So they'll convene in January of 2025 and will meet for 6 months, usually adjourning around June the 1st. There is a state representative from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, State Representative Giovanni Capriolone, who is the chair of a committee, an interim committee right now that's looking at AI and some legislation that may be introduced when there's a filing period after the election. The issues that we got to deal with is that how are we as a state going to manage the use of water, electricity, cybersecurity issues, privacy, and ethics when it comes to how AI is used. It's being adopted, it's being used, it's proven that when used properly and effectively, it can improve business operations. You know that from your own business, as an example. So I think we've got some challenges ahead, but the way that we keep up with it is building these relationships, doing these programs, and being more collaborative. I've been talking with the Austin Technology Council off and on throughout the year, know their president quite well, and we're talking about what needs to be done at a statewide level to improve the use of AI, not just AI but all technology, and to expand upon your earlier concept of what about the other parts of the state of Texas that may not be focused on AI. So I hope that kind of gives you a sense of where we're headed with this. The innovation is there. I heard a presentation in early June by someone at a conference I was attending in Dallas that made the comment that he didn't think, and I don't recall the gentleman's name nor the organization he was with, but he made the comment that he didn't think much AI innovation was going to come out of Dallas, Fort Worth in the next 5 years. I would beg to differ with that. We've seen companies extrapolate the use of AI, data centers coming online, innovation in the way business operations, even by the tech-enabled companies that are not basic tech companies, they're using AI. So I think it's an adoption that's going to take place and continue to grow.
Interesting. That's very interesting. What you mentioned about Austin, and from my perspective, I would love to also get your opinion on that. Is that Austin is more like a startups place? Obviously, there is Meta, Oracle there, but it's more like startups place with a little bit different culture. Here in Dallas, where we are, it's more like mature business with a lot of headquarters or corporate offices, huge financial district, and also logistics. Amazon is here. McDonald's opened their first like fully automatic restaurant in Fort Worth, Texas, and things like that. So, do you see that being something important on the Dallas landscape? The Dallas, the Texas landscape. Excuse me. That Dallas is more like a corporate office, mature business, and Austin is more like startups.
I would think that's a fair statement. Um, Austin's got, as you mentioned, some major technology companies. Dell is in the region down there as well. Google's down there as well. Google's here as well. But I do think they have a little bit more of an entrepreneurial focus with what their council is doing, and a little bit about what their culture is down there, where we as a region have really worked hard over the last 30 to 40 years to build that corporate culture that you talked about, with major companies moving into the area, like AT&T moved in 10 or 15 years ago from outside. Amazon's here now, and some other things. So I think the challenge that we have is that uh, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the startup community was a little bit more active because there was a better access to resources, particularly funding. Dallas has a reputation of not being real active in the DC community in terms of being able to acquire cash to operate. I think we need to work on how we can change that. There's always the case that says, well, you could find it if you really need it, but I think we have to get the mentality that Dallas is open for business for startups. That's one of the reasons our innovation team is doing this expo, is to be able to give those companies that want to make a pitch the opportunity to showcase what their capabilities are to qualified venture capitalists. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of difference between the two. And then if you go to Houston, for example, they're not known as a tech hub per se. They do have a lot of technology in the oil and gas industry. Of course they do. They, being at the port, being the petrochemical industry down there, and of course a lot of the major oil companies being headquartered there. So we're going to have to work as a state to bring places like Houston, San Antonio, Lubbock with its health tech focus, University of Medical School there that Texas Tech has, in El Paso. We're going to have to work a little bit more closely among our cities to build this industry up and to get more people thinking in terms of small to mid-cap companies, taking nothing away whatsoever from those large companies. They come in here, they pay a lot of taxes, they employ a lot of people, they join our organization and buy sponsorships and things of that nature. But we've got to balance it out.
Last lunch that I also was participating, you and your team organized an amazing event from my perspective and in my opinion, when companies from Dallas were presenting the artificial intelligence implementations. We have really great examples of, for instance, Dallas Art Museum. We have a big international real estate corporation, commercial real estate corporation, and also non-profit example. From this perspective, do you see any, what I would ask is great characteristics or great definition of the company here in Dallas that is using AI? Putting other words, can you see and describe those that are becoming leaders in AI implementations, or from maybe the culture perspective, maybe the origination perspective, or maybe the nature of their business? What separates those that are actually here implementing AI, being very active, from those that maybe are waiting, or maybe they have worked for many different reasons, good reasons, is somewhere else? So can you have any feedback, opinion on that?
Well, of course, the luncheon that you're referring to featured the finalists in our Emerging Company Innovation Award category and our Corporate Innovation Award category. And the Dallas Museum of Art actually was the award recipient for the Emerging Company Innovation Award for what they're doing in terms of using AI and other technology to present art in a more immersive format. For example, you go up to a painting in the art museum, and there maybe is a QR code or some other AI technology, and you can click on the QR code, and it begins to show you and talk with you through someone who is obviously recorded, but it explains the painting a little bit more in detail. It kind of goes into the background of the artist, those kinds of things. I think that's an example of what you're talking about. CBRE was the name of the real estate company. They're the largest real estate company in the world, and they are using AI to manage their properties, to make sure that, for example, their HVA systems don't fail, getting advance warning and those kinds of things. And they've really modeled it very, very well. The two companies that I really think that stand apart, and they're not in many cases that well known. One of the companies is Worlds. Dave Copps is the CEO of Worlds. He is a master entrepreneur. He's on his fourth company now. He is using a lot of AI, generative AI language operations to change business operations for companies, and he's really setting the pace for that. The other company is called Spacey. Uh, they have developed ways to do inventory for things like big box stores in like 30 minutes using robotics on rails that go along the shelves of the stores. And what used to take 2 days to inventory that can now be done in about 30, 40 minutes, let's say a Home Depot or a Lowe's as an example. Those kinds of companies are setting the stage. They're the ones that are being the first adopters. Uh, it's moving so fast. That's the challenge. The development of the industry is moving so fast, and the technology, that they're having to reset everything every 2 to 3 weeks. From what Dave said at one of our events earlier this year. So, and we're also beginning to see too uh, collegiate programs to educate people in AI. I know that Dave Copps was involved, from what he said at the luncheon earlier this year, that he's been working with some universities on the West Coast about developing AI curriculum at a master's level program for some of the universities out there. I know that it's being done here in this area as well. And I also attended a conference earlier this year. It's being done on the East Coast up in the Boston area as well, where they're developing programs and curriculum that help train people in using it. The issue is that by the time they graduate, it's advanced so fast, so you've got to really be able to be on the ball. But I think the innovation is there. Companies are doing it here. The airport, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, is going through a massive overhaul of facilities, and in doing so, they're upgrading their IT systems. They're going to more cloud computing options. You're talking about a lot of cargo and a lot of people that move through that airport, and they're keeping up with it. So you can't do that if you're not innovative. Those are just some examples.
Amazing, amazing. I'm glad you mentioned DFW because our international audience might be not aware of the fact that this airport is growing so fast and using a lot of AI as well. For instance, when you're onboarding a plane, instead of showing your documents at the gate, you just have your face scanned, and that's how you are identified, and all the safety procedures are actually in place based on the face scanning, which is still compliant with the international regulations that the face recognition cannot be used in specific situations. So DFW is one of the biggest airports around the world, and it's having the top-notch, cutting-edge technologies scaled across all the gates. So I'm so happy you mentioned that, because AI it's not here in Dallas region about like these things you see, like maybe robots, maybe something that is getting people interest because it's fascinating. But AI is kind of everywhere, and sometimes we don't see it. One example is DFW, but I'm glad you mentioned that students in college, and I know from our board of directors meetings that college here around are also developing or already developed programs for students to get them familiar with artificial intelligence, and specifically generative AI. So these young brains, when they grow up, they will be natively using that responsibly in their work. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Since we are coming to the end, Paul, I would love to put you a little bit in this context right now. Imagine now I would love to ask you a question when you're talking to a company which is not from Dallas, might be from Oklahoma or maybe New York or maybe Europe, and is trying to explain to the market and see Texas as you mentioned at the beginning, one of the biggest one of the biggest states in the tech in the United States, one of the most developed when it comes to technology, with the huge enterprise backend like AT&T, Verizon, Google, Uber, Oracle, and other companies. So how Tech Titans exclusively can help entrepreneurs to come here. And I'm not thinking about startups only. I'm talking about other companies from maybe manufacturing vertical or transportation or even high tech. So if you can tell a little bit, everybody who is listening us, how Texas, exclusively Tech Titans, can be helpful to get that road to working for these businesses.
Sure, glad to. When you take a look at the state of Texas in comparison to other parts of the world, it is very much a reasonable place to do business from a cost perspective. Uh, Land is reasonably priced. Taxes are reasonably set at levels that uh, you know that don't overdo it. We do not have a state income tax in the state of Texas, like many other states do, and then I think you're going to find a real uh, focused effort on providing the necessary uh, tools to be able to relocate here. While Tech Titans is not an economic development organization per se, we're a membership based technology association. We work closely with uh, other organizations, the Dallas Regional Chambers Economic Development Department, uh, University of Texas at Dallas, other universities in the region, as well as some of the cities like Frisco, Richardson, and so forth, in helping provide whatever information is needed and in connecting uh, the new coming or entering businesses into the Dallas Fort Worth area, connecting them to the companies that are here. That's really what we do. That's really what our main focus is that to bring a company into the Dallas area, we want to get them connected to other companies, either as customers perhaps, or just as similar companies that can share ideas and collaborate. And you've been involved in discussions both at events as well as committee meetings through your membership here at Tech Titans, that you can understand how that relationship takes time to build. That's what we can do because we work with everybody, and that's kind of where we want to see our role when it comes to helping companies move into the area.
And thank you so much for this, Paul. Last question, trends. I would love to ask you for the future. So, what do you see here in Texas? Maybe you want to tell us about United States. That's still great. As a trend, what we can expect in the next. And I don't want to ask like 5 years. I want to ask maybe next year or maybe even next month, considering like all the technology landscape is evolving. So, what is your prediction? What will be important, or what will grow faster than everything else?
Well, as I said earlier in the broadcast, uh, adoption of AI is going to continue, and you've got the early adopters, and that'll kind of settle out, and it'll be very similar, I think, to what we saw with cloud computing 10 years ago or so, as I said. And so I think that's still going to be very prevalent. How we adopt it, what can we do to meet the challenges of water usage, electrical usage, data centers. We are going to continue, I think, in this region to grow data centers. I mean, obviously, you've got to have those data centers to be able to have the computing technology to be able to supply the needs of these companies. And you throw things like blockchain in there that we didn't really talk about, it's going to require a lot. I think in terms of trends, you're going to see a lot more multimodal AI. Generative AI is going to be huge in how it's being used. Open source is going to continue to be an area, and I think we're going to see some open source discussion at the Texas legislature in their session this spring. Regulation is going to be an important part of it all as well, because we've got to figure out how to manage the ethical AI concerns, things of that nature. But I think when you look at the adoption of AI, some industries are getting second wins. Cloud is a good example. IoT is still very, very active in this area. RFID as well. Those are, I think, are the industries that are going to continue to grow. But AI is going to take the lead. The other one that's coming down the map that a lot of people are really hesitant to talk about, and we've had a couple of programs on it, is quantum computing. That's going to be in some parlance, in some of the discussions and meetings I've been in, that's going to really be a big event when it finally becomes a truly emerging. And a prime example of that is a program that we had in January of this year on how quantum computing was going to be a challenge to cybersecurity departments because the algorithms cannot be written fast enough to be able to keep up with the changes that quantum computing is causing. So we've got some challenges there, but I think that's going to be a real foreseeable emerging technology in the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you so much, Paul. Your perspective is priceless because you, from my perspective, you see it all the kind of like top of this tower, and you see like big landscape. So your comment is not like friction of something; is like really comprehensive one. If people would love to connect with you or Tech Titans, please give them the good way to do so.
Yeah, you can check out our website at techtitans.org. And of course, my email, I'm willing to correspond. That would be Paul at techtitans.org, either one of those, and we'll see what we can do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And for everybody, please, if you are here in Dallas Metroplex or in Texas, October 17th, it's a AI forum event. We'll be talking about predictive analytics, and 3 solid case studies will be discussed by the participants and panelists. But also visit Tech Titans website, please. There is a calendar section. A lot of amazing events, as Paul mentioned, are on the plan already. So it's easy just to click, register, and come. One of them, Lunch Halls, on a beautiful Prestonwood Country Club. So you go in the really pro environment with a really pro setup, and there is like amazing opportunity for networking, not even mentioning the great food. Paul, thank you so much for your time. I know you are a very busy gentleman, so I really appreciate this time slot for us and for the audience. I'm always happy to share all this knowledge that our amazing guests are sharing here exclusively. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the invitation.